The rich get richer in Dallas as the defending Western Conference champions just added one of the greatest shooters the league has ever seen.
Curry wants Thompson to score. This is the unselfish play. From three, yes!
Klay Thompson's final year with the Golden State Warriors ended unceremoniously as the two parties parted ways, opening up a chance for the Dallas Mavericks to sign him. Then again, we know that he's no longer at his prime and has struggled a lot with his shooting a season ago, making people wonder what he can offer to the Mavs. But with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving running the show on the offensive end, it seems likely that Klay now has a different role for this team moving forward as he is on his way to helping the Mavs secure another chance at the title. We know that he's capable as a shooter, but let's get deeper into the heart of what Klay's move to Dallas truly means for the Mavericks. If there was someone you would want to give the ball to on a wide-open three-pointer, it would be Klay Thompson during his prime. The man was an instant bucket from the outside, capable of sniping opponents down with his volume efficiency from the three-point line. The guy scored 60 points on 11 dribbles because he was so great at finding his spot off the catch.
And Curry on the counterattack, coming upon the final minute here of the first half. Klay Thompson.
He's arguably the greatest off-ball player in history, right up there with Stephen Curry. Now you know why the Golden State Warriors were absolutely lethal in the 4 championships they won. Speaking of the Warriors, Klay's time in the Bay Area ended in a bad way when he and the front office couldn't decide on a contract for the former All-Star moving forward, despite Thompson's desire to finish his career with the team he won 4 championships in 13 seasons with. His Warriors exit paved the way for the Dallas Mavericks to sign him, adding a lethal outside sniper to an already deadly offensive team that arguably has the greatest offensive backcourt in the history of the league. But what does Thompson's addition to the Mavericks mean for this team? For starters, the Dallas Mavericks just won the Western Conference last season, making the NBA Finals, where they lost in 5 games to an overpowered Boston Celtics squad. On their way to the Finals, the Mavs relied heavily on the duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, arguably the greatest offensive backcourt we've seen in the NBA. Doncic's ability to attract defensive attention and generate offense for himself and others was key in freeing Kyrie up for clutch shots.
Kyrie Irving drives, pulls up, shot, it's good.
The way that the Mavs relied heavily on Luka also allowed the role players to find their spots on the floor. Guys like Derrick Jones Jr., Josh Green, and PJ Washington were getting open outside looks. Meanwhile, Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford were throwing dunks off of lob passes. Basically, it's an offense that relies on good spacing and the backcourt's ability to attract defensive attention. But the Mavs' journey to the finals wouldn't have happened if it weren't for that midseason trade that got them Gafford and Washington. While these guys aren't going to change a game on their own, they improved the team's spacing and allowed Doncic to have more options with his playmaking. It also helps that they're pretty good defenders as well. Despite the Mavs' Cinderella run to the finals, the Celtics exposed them to win the championship, making it clear that this squad wasn't ready for the title just yet. Dallas shot just 31.6% from the three-point line during the finals, as Boston defended the outside shot incredibly well. Doncic was the only player who averaged 20 or more points during the finals. Meanwhile, outside of Kyrie, who struggled with his offense, Washington was the only other player who averaged double digits in scoring against the Celtics.
Washington, corner 3, short. Gets it back and lays it up and in.
Even when we're not looking at the final stats, you could still see that there were areas the Mavs needed to work on. They were second in the league in three-pointers attempted, but only 13th in three-point percentage. No other team in the league shot as many three-pointers but struggled to make them, and you could look at the roster construction to see why this was a problem. Out of all the players who attempted more than 3 attempts from the outside, Irving was the only one who shot over 40%. Doncic is more of a volume three-point shooter. On the other hand, Tim Hardaway Jr. was a mercurial shooter, capable of lighting it up one day but struggling to make it on the next day. For a guy whose only role was to catch and shoot off passes from Luka and Kyrie, Hardaway shot only 35.3% from the outside. The wings weren't exactly stellar for the Mavs. Outside of Hardaway, Jones Jr. wasn't shooting the lights out as well. He could have good games here and there, but he was more of a defender and an occasional shooter instead of someone the defense would actually care about. This this is where Klay can potentially change the Mavericks' outside shooting woes. Imagine having Luka at the top of the key setting up a play for the Mavs, but instead of having Hardaway and Jones spotting out in the wing position, you have Klay Thompson simply waiting for the offense. A pick-and-roll combination between Klay and Luka or even Kyrie can free up so many options. With defenders more concerned about Doncic scoring or the centers dunking the ball off a roll, help defense will be coming from the wings, freeing Thompson and the other corner shooters in the process. It's going to be a nightmare defending a team that has 2 elite scorers, 1 elite rim runner, and an elite 3-point shooter on the floor at the same time. Defenses would have to pick their poison, leaving at least one of those guys open. So instead of having to deal with Hardaway or Jones, opposing defenses would now have to care about Klay's ability to set himself up and shoot those jumpers off the catch. He's right up there at the top when it comes to catch and shoot players, and it's going to be interesting to watch him work his magic off of screens to drain those jumpers off of Luka and Kyrie passes. He's no slouch on the defensive end as well. He's no longer the elite defender he used to be, but he's still got the mobility and defensive IQ of a good defender.
Murray looking for Jokic, finds him, shot blocked.
And the Mavs know that they'd rather have Thompson defending opposing wings instead of Jones and Hardaway. But the interesting part comes in when you understand the fact that Klay isn't just a catch-and-shoot player. During his prime years, he was an incredible shot creator, capable of generating offense off of dribbles. We didn't see that a lot a season ago because he was forcing shots for the Warriors instead of playing within the flow of the offense. But he averaged 20 or more points 7 straight seasons, including the 2 seasons after returning from a 2-year injury absence. That means he can generate shots and create plays better than anyone the Mavs have outside of Luka and Kyrie. So instead of relying on Washington as the third option, the Mavs now have a legitimate third guy who could carry the offense from time to time, especially when opposing defenses are focusing on the main guys. Klay is no stranger to being the third option because he won 2 championships playing behind Curry and Durant. But he still scored 20 or more points and made the All-Star team during the KD era in the Bay Area, proving that he could find his offense even when he doesn't get to handle the ball a lot.
Klay Thompson.
But we know that haters out there are going to say that Klay is way past his prime and is no longer the same player he used to be. That's certainly true to some extent, especially when you look at how he chucked plenty of shots and missed point-blank layups during the 2023-24 season. But the guy still averaged 18 points on 38.7% from the field. A washed-up season for Klay as a third option is miles ahead of the Mavericks' third option a year ago. We can also look at different factors that led to the down year for Klay. The Warriors didn't have a legitimate second option behind Curry, especially with Wiggins struggling to find his offense. Thompson basically had to force a few shots here and there, especially when it became clear that no one other than Steph could generate offense. This time, however, he doesn't have to worry about that because he has Luka and Kyrie attracting defensive attention and opening the floor for everyone else. Then there's the Doncic factor that comes into play. It might be true that Steph is arguably the greatest magnet player in the history of the league because he attracts so much defensive attention on and off the ball.
Comes free, gets the ball, puts up a 3-pointer. Bang! Steph Curry!
But Luka is the most double-teamed player in the NBA the last 3 seasons because no defender can stop him one-on-one. It's not even close. So what that means for the Mavs is that having Klay on the floor could ruin an entire defensive strategy. If you doubled Luka, you'd have to deal with the possibility of Thompson exploding for 6 3-pointers. If you played honest defense on the Slovenian, he's going to torch you with his offense. Having someone like Thompson on the floor, regardless of whether he's scoring or not, can already open up so many opportunities for this team, and it would only make the offense look more fluid and efficient. Finally, we have the championship pedigree. It wasn't through sheer luck that Klay won 4 championships in 13 seasons. He knows when to show up and hit big shots or play solid defense when the lights are at their brightest. Outside of Kyrie, the Mavs didn't really have anyone like that. The lights in the finals were a bit too bright for everyone other than Luka, but we know that this won't be a problem for the guy who's been to 6 championship rounds and has won 4 rings. He brings in championship experience, leadership skills, and a veteran presence. Just like how the additions of Gafford and Washington made a ton of difference for the Mavs a few months ago, someone like Thompson could very well change the future of this team in the best possible way, even if we might never see the prime Klay Thompson who could hit 14 3-pointers in a game. At this point, it looks like it's all about freeing up the floor for Luka and Kyrie, and no one does that better than the best catch-and-shoot player in league history.